Let's talk about heads. No, not that kind. Tripod heads. On the off chance that you don't know what a tripod head is, well, a tripod has legs and then this bit, which is what you mount your camera to. Now, strap in because this is a bit of a long one in order to at least try and do this big subject justice. I've provided timestamps below, so feel free to skip ahead if you want. Right, let's go. Most cheap or mid-priced tripods come with a head. Sometimes it's even integral to the tripod, that is to say, not removable. But once you get away from the bargain basement equipment, most tripods have a 3/8 inch thread at the top of the legs onto which you can screw a variety of tripod heads depending on what you're trying to do with your camera. So let's have a look at the major categories and what they're good for. Depending on how you slice it, there are about 5 main categories of tripod head. Some are general purpose and some are more specialized. They are ball head, 3-way or pan tilt head, video or fluid head, geared head, and gimbal head. Let's take a closer look at each type and who it is and is not for. The ball head, like the name suggests, consists of a ball on which everything sits. This allows for quick adjustment to any position. They come in many sizes for mounting tiny, regular, or large equipment. They're usually adjusted with a master knob like this, but sometimes with a trigger. This is a common arrangement with a main knob, as well as a friction adjustment and a separate pan knob. As well as quick adjustment, the other benefit of ball heads is that they're usually relatively small for the amount of weight they can support, with no goofy handles poking out. The downside of ball heads is that, apart from the separate pan adjustment on some of them, once you loosen it and make an adjustment, you may end up adjusting everything. The separate friction adjustment, if there is one, does help with that a bit. So if you need to make precise adjustments or want to adjust just one plane of movement, like say tilt, they can be frustrating. It also means that they can be quite hard to get exactly level. Who are they for? Look, they're not a bad general purpose choice. Portrait photographers in particular like them. I've used one for years for corporate headshots, and they're probably a good fit for general travel shooting too. They can be released and adjusted quickly, so they can even be used for sports or wildlife, but there is a more specialized head for that too. They can be used for landscape photography, but probably wouldn't be my first choice for that due to the difficulty in getting them level. Who are they not for? Architectural or real estate photographers who want to be able to control each axis of movement separately and accurately, and product photographers who want to be able to make very fine adjustments. Okay, next we have the 3-way head. This used to really be the default photography head, and along with ball heads, I guess it still is. As the name suggests, and as you can see, it has 3 separate handles for controlling pan, tilt, and roll. The pros and cons of this type of head arise directly from that construction. If you want to adjust just one axis of movement without screwing up the other two, a 3-way head is good. On the flip side, you can't make very precise adjustments and they can be kind of awkward to transport because of the handles sticking out. Personally, I very rarely use one because I find that other heads are better suited to most jobs. Who are they for? I reckon 3-way heads are well suited to landscape photography, and along with the ball head, I'd say these are also quite well suited to a beginner who's not yet sure what they're into and not ready to fork out for a more specialized head. For general work, they're okay, and I used one for years when I was starting out, including for professional work. Who are they not for? If you need very precise adjustment or very quick adjustment, 3-way heads are not the best. They're also a bit goofy to pack and travel with. They're really a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none. Look, I'm not trying to hate on them. Like I said, I used one as my only head for many years with no problems. Number 3 is the video or fluid head, which does rate a mention here because so many people are shooting video nowadays, including me, obviously. There's a huge variety of them, and the ones used in broadcast can cost as much as a car. The two main points differentiating video heads from photo heads are that they usually only offer pan and tilt movements because it's assumed you want to maintain a level horizon, and they also have a long pan handle and some sort of fluid damping to facilitate smooth shots. Pro video heads actually have a different mounting system using a half ball instead of a 3/8 thread, so you can just set the legs down anywhere and then level the head with one quick movement. Who are they for? Well, obviously they're ideal for shooting video for the reasons I've just mentioned. That's not to say you couldn't also make use of one of these with a longer lens if you were trying to track moving subjects like birds or motorsport. But as I said before, there's a more specialized head for that, which we will be getting into in a moment. Who are they not for? If you need to be able to roll the camera side to side, a video head is not for you. Also, with their pan handle, they tend not to be very compact. And if you're not shooting video, why pay for a fluid damping that you don't need? This next head is one of my favorites, although it's definitely not a general purpose head. The geared head. It's worth mentioning that geared head has a different meaning when it comes to cinema heads. Cinema geared heads like this Arri head are very expensive and designed for mounting large cinema cameras and making controlled movements with special crank handles. What we're talking about here is this beast. This is the Manfrotto 410 Junior, and it's called that because there's an even bigger 405 as well for larger payloads like studio cameras. The other main player in this space is Arca Swiss. Their cube head is an absolute beast and costs as much as a good camera. As you can see, a geared head has 3 separate knobs for each axis of movement, and you can make very fine adjustments by turning the knobs. It does have these quick release knobs too, so you don't have to wind the thing endlessly if you need to make a bigger adjustment. Interestingly, the plate on here is not compatible with other tripod heads, so that's something to keep in mind if you like the idea of leaving one plate on the camera as you switch between tripods. Who are they for? Well, geared heads are great for architecture and interiors, especially when shooting with a very wide-angle lens, and product photography. They can be used for landscape photography too, but their weight and bulk means they're not usually the top choice for that. Who are they not for? Well, obviously anyone trying to shoot a moving subject. Speaking of moving subjects, finally we get to the gimbal head. Well, we hear the word gimbal a lot nowadays in relation to motorized gimbals, which can be used to get stable video footage. But gimbals have actually been around for hundreds of years, commonly used to mount navigation devices like compasses or gyroscopes. What does that have to do with a tripod head? Well, the key thing about a gimbal is that it allows whatever's mounted onto it to rotate about a single axis, or in the case of a compass on a boat, the boat can move around the compass. In the case of a gimbal head for a camera, the problem that it's designed to solve is this. One drawback of all the types of head we've looked at so far is that the camera's center of gravity is always above the pivot point of the tripod. So with the exception of counterbalanced video heads, if you loosen the locking knob or lever, the camera will want to fall one way or another, particularly in the back and forth tilting plane. By using a gimbal, the camera and lens combination can be precisely balanced so that no matter how heavy your rig is, you can move it with just fingertip pressure, and when you let go, it tends to stay where you left it. This is fantastic if you're using a very long and heavy lens to photograph moving subjects like birds or motorsport. Being such a specialized tool, the downside is that they're not much good for anything else, and they're also relatively large, expensive, and take a bit of setting up to balance correctly. So who are they for? Well, you'll typically see gimbals on safari, at sporting events and air shows, and as I mentioned, they're also popular for birding. Basically, anytime you want to use a long lens with moving subjects. Who are they not for? Basically, everyone else. There are other specialized heads like the panoramic head, which allows you to pan the camera around the nodal point so you can make multi-shot panoramas that stitch together properly. But look, we don't have all day here. So those are the main types of tripod heads you'll come across. A couple more points to mention before you go out and part with your hard-earned cash though. First of all, your head choice, along with the tripod itself, will in part be determined by the maximum weight you plan to use on it. If you're traveling with a small camera and lens combo like this, which only weighs about 850 grams or under 2 pounds, you won't need a huge heavy head. A full frame camera with a pro lens may weigh up to twice as much. And of course, once you move into medium format cameras or super telephoto lenses, the payload goes way up again. So make sure you know the weight of your equipment and check the specs of the head you're considering to make sure it's capable of carrying that load, preferably with a bit of a margin too. One final thing I should touch on before we close out with a conclusion and a couple of recommendations is quick release plates. All but the most basic of tripods nowadays feature quick release plates. This is just a little plate of some sort that screws onto the bottom of the camera or lens so that it can be mounted and unmounted from the tripod quickly and without tools. A few tripods have their own proprietary plates, but most use one of the more common systems. It seems like nowadays the most common is Arca Swiss compatible. The plates can look quite different. For example, this one came with a Benro head, this one is from Peak Design, and this camera cage has an Arca Swiss compatible rail on the bottom. But the important thing is that they all fit into a standard sized clamp. So if you're planning to use multiple heads for different purposes, it makes sense to look for heads which use the same system so that you can just leave the plate on the camera. So which type of head is for you? Well, if you've made it this far, you've probably already identified what might be a good fit for the type of photography you do. But to quickly sum up, if you photograph a variety of different subjects and need an all-round head, you probably want a ball head or a three-way tilt pan head, with the ball head probably being better suited for travel and portraits. For video work, consider a video head. If you need fine and accurate adjustments, you can't beat a geared head. For long lenses with moving subjects, a gimbal is hard to beat. And of course, if you want to shoot stitched panoramas, a panoramic head will save you from some headaches at the computer. There are literally hundreds of tripod heads out there at a huge range of price points. In general, I'd be inclined to stick with the known brands, whether that's a stalwart like Manfrotto or Arca Swiss, or a newer entrant like Benro or Three-Legged Thing. But you can also get lucky with some of the lesser known Chinese brands if you're willing to take a chance. If you have specific questions, please drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to reply. Well, this has turned into quite an epic video. I hope it's armed you with some helpful information before you go hunting for a tripod head. I'd be grateful for a thumbs up, and of course, you're invited to subscribe if you want to see more like this. Happy shooting! Ciao!